Alright, time to get started. We're not going to put it up in the air just yet. The owner wanted me to ride it around from the factory and just see what I thought. So I might check the wheel torque just because I don't trust people. So we might torque down the wheels, but that's it. Everything else just like it came here. Ride it around, see what we think. I think he said something about steering and maybe something with the clutch. But I'll just kind of feel it out, see how it's going. We're getting all of our parts laid out on the floor in the order that I think it's best to install them in. Big 3 doesn't count, it's kind of off to the side right now. We're just going to strip everything off for the Big 3, except for the cam, but we'll get to that whenever we're ready. So Hauser, we got our +1 stem, all of our controls. So I think the first would be steering stem, so we can go ahead and get all the plastics off, get the tank off, swap out the steering stem, and then we might wait to put the handlebars on just so they're not in my way, doing the cam and front suspension. So we might wait on putting the handlebars back on it. We got our multiple fluid, that'll go with our brake lines down here. What's in this one? We got a master link, some charging stuff, and brake line holders. E-brake delete, that's an easy one. That could probably be first. What else we got? That is the customer's carabiner. We'll make sure we don't lose that one. Your Mosi parts, and our Cuervo breather delete, AIS delete. So I want to go over here with Big 3. This one can be the customer's box. So I know we decided last minute he does not want to use the gray ODIs that he got. So I have some black ones that I'll get for him, and then I think he had ordered some, so I'll swap them out whenever he gets back. But yeah, that's where we're starting with. Stock Raptor. Not even had its first oil change yet. It's gonna be getting good stuff, the AMSOIL, new filter and all. And yeah, I gotta find a big box for all the stock parts to go in. So intake, air box, exhaust, front bumper, like a bunch of stuff. So we'll have to keep our eye out for something coming in the next days or so. Maybe we'll get a big box from Rocky Mountain or something. But yeah, let's ride it around and I'll let you know what I think. I don't like where his key is at. We're just gonna go ahead and take this off. I don't want to tear it just for one test ride. It's actually smashing the mount. That's alright, we'll leave it hanging there. Throw that in his to-go box. I think it's the actual bars is what's smashing it down there. Alright, we'll just kind of stick it back on there. So we're going to be cutting the plastic just a little bit. He uses one of these, I don't know, maybe one of the nice CNC people off of eBay. Just one of their quick mounts. Who makes this? I don't see a brand. It looks pretty heavy duty, but you can't get to your key if you have a bar pad on, and everybody should be riding with a bar pad so you don't break your nose and bottom of your helmet. But yeah, we're going to relocate that to the side fender, just the flat spot over here, so we're going to be pulling the label off. Test ride complete. Alright, so it has a little bit of hesitation but some of the brand new Raptors do. It could be the throttle is a little bit too loose, but also you can't dead stop it or like 1200 RPM and then like half throttle it on 24 and up. It just is what it is. I don't know if it's more emission stuff they're putting on them or what, but we'll see if we can clean that up with the mods that we're doing. And then it pulls terribly to the right, like no jokes or anything. Like it's terrible. So just because I like playing Inspector Gadget, we'll check tire pressure and check the alignment and see what's up. So we'll start with the easier one. .4, 4.4, 4, 3.9. So 3.9 versus 4.4, that's not a huge difference. So I'm going to say it's probably not bad. It might cause a little bit of pulling, it being 0.5 off, but whenever we're looking for major, we are looking for like 2 to 3 psi or more off. So if you got 5 in one side and 12 in the other, it's gonna handle like crap. 1, 2, 3, 4 bars look like they're on straight. Got it in the middle of the hubs. Put us a little knot in it. I do believe it's going to be this one. So bars are straight. We're going to measure from the bushing. That is, right at 9, just below it. And this is 3, it looks like a 1/4 inch. Yeah, 1/4 inch difference. So this one is towed in, so that would be a 1/4 inch off in the front and a 1/2 inch off in the back. So it is way towed in. But we're gonna fix that whenever we yank all the suspension off. So the customer just wanted a quick test ride. I would say that was one of his issues he brought up. Alright, so before we get this thing off the ground, I think it's probably the opportune time to go ahead and break that axle nut loose. We're probably just going to use the e-brake. E-brake is still installed. That's like the only good use for that thing. So we're just going to tighten the bolt down a little bit if we need to completely stop the axle. And then hope for the best on a big breaker bar. Not really sure what's crammed in there. It could have just been debris from the chain. Let's see if we can get a Allen in there now. Alright, there we go. So we're just going to loosen the set screws up. And these should not be that tight. These are Loctited and torqued to maybe 7 foot-pounds. Alright, so there's the first one. See if the second one. See if the second one has anything in it. No, that one looks fine. And if you're wondering, it is Monday, movie of the day. We are doing Jurassic Park Dominion, whatever the third Jurassic World is. Oh, it's gonna be tight. Alright, lock that down just a little bit more. Oh my goodness. Rocked it forward. Let's try to rock it backwards. Oh my goodness. I'll be able to get this one by myself. Wow. Usually you just have somebody sit on it and hold the rear brake, but I don't have nobody right now. I think that's good enough for right now. We're going to loosen the rear brake in case we need it for anything else. We'll just leave that unscrewed for now. We're going to delete it, but not yet. Just in case for some strange reason we need it in the next 5 minutes. So with the blue shocks, we are waiting to see if the owner would like the blue logo for Ground Buster on the outside. I don't think it looked terrible. To me, this lime green, dark green, light blue, dark blue, and a little bit of chrome, it really reminds me like Guardian of the Galaxy kind of. Whatever ship that was that had that color combo. So I don't think the blue logos would look bad on the outside, but if you plan to go black, we'd rather go ahead and put them towards the inside for now. So let's get it on the lift and get the tires off. I think that's about as balanced as we're going to get it. Blue logo's out. I think the same. his hour meter off, and we will reroute it later once everything's back together. That's one of the ones you can't just pop the wire out, so we gotta get it from down here. And you can see that it's supposed to be around the wire, so we'll fix that for him. Not a big deal. It's around the boot. We got a lot of tins to take off. Just go ahead and get the impact. More Phillips head. Alright, so that cover should be loose. Usually you gotta feed these down a little bit first, and then they'll pop back up. Okay. Go ahead and fix this battery. I don't think it has to come out for anything yet. But I don't know why the dealer does it like this. They just can't figure out how the shield fits on there. But anyway, the battery connector goes like that. They were really bad about the Suzuki's too. Cramming the batteries in the covers and slapping the front on them. Tighten them down as possibly, like as hard as I possibly could to try to get the door to look normal, and it would break the door off. So that wasn't cool. I already got a 10. Let's level that out a little bit. There we go. Easy. Alright, well, let's see what we got going on with the intake. The one thing about the airbox is it has the ECU connected. So we need to make sure that we get the mount off or unplug it or do something before we just yank the airbox out. And this new one, that might do it. Just unplug this ECU. The last one had a bunch of brackets that had to come off before you could take it out. But we'll see on this one if we can just take the bolts off and pop it out. We will pay close attention to our fuel customs intake whenever we go to put it back together. See if anything changed on it. Alright, let's give this a little push. There we go. I swear that's easier than like the 22 and below. And this mounts how they got that clip on the bottom. Very interesting. Move that one out of our way. Alright, work day is finished. Time to get to work. That shouldn't have a whole lot of gas left in it. We can take the splash shield off. Just look around for all these little pieces that are connected to it. We got a drainage tube. Alright, left and right at the same time, pull up also. All the above. Pull left, right, up and down, and twist. And it'll come out of there. These probably have a little bit of Loctite on the end of them, so just be careful with them. Don't try to take them out with the impact. Just a little bit of blue Loctite, so just work with them. They'll come out of there. Alright, so just be careful of the little filter at the end of it. And we got a little damper, so we're going to pop the screen back in there. Screen is back in. Little damper with the seal is back in. And then we got our block off plate. Get that to sit in there. We're going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on these. Just a tiny amount. I don't think they're ever going to come back out, but we'll put it on there. Alright, just like that. AIS is deleted. We're going to see if we can find a nice spot to zip tie up this little plug right here. Probably just zip tie it to the harness up there. So that way if ever somebody ever takes the plastic off, they see it's zip tied, they'll know that somebody actually did mess with it and it's meant to be there. So we're just going to work these out, and we are going to attempt to just put the extended tie rods on. So we're just going to spin these stock ones off on both ends, and then when we get all the suspension together, we're going to spin the new ones on. So that way we don't disrupt this ball joint at all. we got our master cylinder top off, and we're just gonna go to the furthest point. They're probably the same length, but whatever. Furthest point, break this guy loose. Try to catch some of that. Oh, we do get quite a bit of room. Let's see if we can get it loose with that. Just enough room. Alright, so there's two things. Off the bars, we got the brake levers free, and we have the brake lines, which are disconnected now. So this side is pretty much done. Check out the clutch and the e-brake on the other side. Go ahead and put this cover back on. Be really careful with these bolts on the bottom. I have seen so many that strip out. They'll strip the casing out or they'll break one of these bolts off in there. And there's not a whole lot of hope once you strip the head of these bolts or strip the casing. They are a pain to try to thread or do anything with. I do believe the owner's probably going to just put all his parts on eBay like I suggested. So all these parts will be somewhere on eBay. Alright, so on the damper, I'm glad we mentioned it to the owner and he mentioned it to us. If you look close, where's that thing? So I'm glad the owner mentioned it. We would have looked at it anyway. But if you see the precision damper, you can see the set screw is still where it was whenever it shipped. So this thing will eventually spin. Maybe the clamp is tight enough on aluminum that maybe it like kind of clamped down. But I guarantee you ride it hard and whipping back and forth, eventually that damper is gonna come loose. So we're gonna take it all apart. Set screw gets red Loctite, everything else gets a little bit of blue Loctite. Nothing crazy, just a little dab of the blue stuff. And then after that, we can pull our steering stem out. Start getting some parts off the back just in case we get the damper off, we get the stem out, and we go to take off the shocks and A-arms, just to make sure it's not going to unbalance our stand. We're going to go ahead and get the rear prep to come apart, just in case the weight is off. We can lower this stand back down and then take some parts off the rear. That way it stays balanced. Alright, Friday night, weekend, we got Extraction playing on the TV. Good movie. And we are about to grind down the links and chain so that way we can get it off of there and install a master link. Oh, our battery's dead. Well, hell. That's why we had the intake off. Make life so much easier. Straight. Sometimes you gotta turn these. It's not a big deal to turn them. Don't freak out that you're turning the bottom of the shock. It's circle. It's meant to be turned. You'd be able to do that with just this linkage. But let's do the same steps we did before. We are going to gently push out the center almost all the way, and then we're just going to take a big glob of grease and stick it in there and work it around all those needle bearings. I'm actually surprised they don't drill these. I mean, they're billet, but you can see the hole in the center. It's kind of meant for a Zerk fitting. It'd be pretty awesome if they put them in there. And repeat the process. Hess linkage. And that one. This one gets a 19 and a washer. Put that guy on there. Remember that one being difficult on my my bike too. Alright. Slide this in there. Just like so. Do the old balance on the knee trick again. There we go. See if we can get this back one lined up at the same time. So close. There we go. It's just a little bit off. Top shock bolt. And bottom dog bone. Get this bad boy lined up. Without pinching your fingers. Good luck. So you have to kind of figure out where in the travel it wants to line up at. Because remember, this is longer linkage, so the swing arm is going to be a little bit higher, which is going to put the bike a little bit lower, which is what we want. And remember, the shock hasn't been adjusted at all, so the shock is probably bottomed out right now. So close. Okay. Next. Oh, my foot is cramping. So just like we did with everything else, we're gonna get a rag and wipe off any water or anything that got inside of here. Same thing with this surface. Got a little bit of sand on it. Wipe off this side. Alright, so we got the C-ring off. These things are a pain. Whoever invented this, congratulations, but also I'm not buying you a beer. So I usually take one of my pry small screwdrivers like this one. This one is snap-on. I think there's another one that was on the interwebs on like TikTok or something. Whatever this one is. I like this one. It just says warning, wear eye protection. That doesn't help y'all at all. But it's like a little pry one that has that impact spot on the back in case you want to hit it. But you take this, you wedge it in there, and you try to push it to one side, and then usually I feed a needle down in between there, so that way it holds it for you. And then after that, get a pry bar or like a big screwdriver, and I just stick it in between there and start wedging it up, and just slowly work it around there. If it's your first time, it's gonna take a minute. Just like that. Now we got a free needle on the floor. We're just gonna take this one, and it goes on there pretty easy compared to how it has to come off. See, once you get like an edge started, it just goes on there. Just like that. I wish it was that easy to take off. That would be amazing. Amazing. Alright, so we're gonna put a little bit of grease just so it makes it easier if this thing ever needs to come out. Right there. Right there. And then also where our sprocket, make sure this thing isn't sharp because you will screw up your finger on it. But this one's brand new, so we're good. So we're gonna put a little bit right there, and we're gonna put a little bit on the rotor side whenever we go to put that side in. We're gonna put just light grease around there, clean it off. It's already got dirt in it a little bit. All right, now a little bit of grease. Now that it's clean. Had a little bit of that Florida sand hiding in there. Okay, so this goes on. Just like that. Bam! It's only dumb till it works. So that is my buddy system. We're gonna run this down. I gotta order this one. This thing is huge. LTRs are pretty damn big. They are 60 millimeter. This thing is 70. So I do not have an axle nut tool, and we're not putting pipe wrench on it because it's aluminum. No, even if it was steel, still would not get a pipe wrench. So we gotta wait for the correct tool. So no test rides until this bad boy gets torqued down. Rear spacing, we got, looks like a 1 inch and a ½ inch. We're pretty close to that. So if we line up our YFZ hub, you can see it's about 1 inch. So we're gonna go ahead and take these off, and we're gonna start with the 1 inch whenever it's time. Put our collar back on, put our nut back on. Same thing on the other side. Start with our 1 inch spacer. These are stock wheels, so stock spacing should be like 3.5. We will keep threading this on here. I want to say this nut is like a 21. I'd say that's good. We're gonna leave like 3 threads left and see what we end up with. So next, this goes into our A-arm, and we're gonna put them towards the back. So we're gonna do 2 in the lower left corner, 2 lower left corner. So if this were on the bike and you split this into 4 like it was a pie, it's in the lower left. Then we take our back plate, then we take our locking nut, put that guy on, and we're not going to tighten any of this down. We're just going to pull it back through, and then let this non-lock nut on the front just kind of hold it all together for now. Get our seals and needle bearings inside the top A-arm. Alright, and then we're going to slide our sleeve down through there. so we are for sure that they are in there. Go in there. There's one. This front one might need a little bit of persuasion. Nothing to it. Only like 16 cuss words. Not my grease. Technique we did before with the shims, putting a glob on there. So we need 2 shims and 2 seals. Make sure that this is as centered as it possibly could be, which it is. This one should be easier because there's only 2 shims and you got 2 hands. The other one's 4 and we only got 2 hands. So same thing, stick the shim on there with a little bit of grease, and then we will wipe some grease in our dust caps. Dust cap. And then pop this on both ends. Once you pop it on there, keep pressure on it so you know for sure that it is still centered. And these go on way easier than the YFZ stuff. Alright, so that's why we put a rag there, just in case it happens to make a little bit of contact with the lower arm. We won't scratch anything. Because it's going to happen. At some point, whether it's whenever you go to put the shock on or whenever you go to put the knuckle on, at some point you're probably gonna let this slip and it's gonna hit the other one. Very nice. Do not drop it, because you will hit something and something will end up scratched. Alright, so that is about as hand tight as I can get it. And we can go ahead and put the shock on this side, just so there's still not so much pressure on the ball joints. So they give you a couple options here. You can either use a lock washer or this bolt that like digs into the metal. Usually I use the lock washer, but it is harder to get back out. Hopefully we won't need it to come back out in a very long time, but I usually use the lock washer one. Take our shock bolt, slide to the top. Take our bolt that goes on the back. And then we got our Hauser specific A-arm bolts. I don't think your factory ones will fit in there. Then we're going to take this whole thing. Get this guy lined up and then make sure they start threading. Like you run it in reverse until you kind of hear the threads start popping like that. And then once you start hearing them pop, then you get it started on both sides at the same time. Alright, safety rag. Put that right there, just in case anything happens. That way we don't mess up our brand new powder coat. We got our bolt. Oh, come on now. So close. Just a little tap. Get it all the way down in there. And then a lock nut. Looking good. Top one gets a solid washer and a lock nut. So this is where you want to be careful. Make sure you do not drop it, because they will smack together. Alright, both of those are hand tight. Let's grab our shock. Looks like our bottom, this piece is a little bit off. We'll just turn that. And we got our shock bolt. Alright, so we got our cheat sheet made for all of our torque specs. Just grab this guy. Oh, it does not stick to that. Too new. There we go. Shocks, top and bottom, are 35. So it looks like we got 14, 17 side. So upper A-arm, 27, 27, lower A-arm 40. So we're gonna swap it. I believe we have room. I don't think we have room on the back one, so let's just go ahead and do the back one. Lower's 40. have to loosen that one. Don't know how that happened. Too strong, I guess. Probably not it, but. Alright, so top shock is going to be way easier than the bottom. Shocks 35, both 35. Alright, so we got the top shock one. That was the easy one. The bottom one is going to be a little bit trickier because we're going to use the nylon nuts. Let's go ahead and do the knuckles. This is 17. Let's see if we can get these. Alright, so we're going to get the knuckles before we tighten down the bottom shock. These are 18, and we'll see if we can get them by just pushing down on them. This one feels like it's going to lock in. Nice. Bottom. See if we can push up on this guy. Get it to hold on the spindle. Yeah, it looks like it's threading on. Good on that side. Same thing on this side. We're going to start with the top. Push down on this one. This one doesn't look like it's going as easy. See if we can straighten it up and get some more force on it. Go in there. No luck on that one. Let's try the bottom one. Bottom one's going. Alright, try the top again. Go in there. Maybe give a little smack with a hammer. See if that'll hold it for us. Yeah, there it goes. Alright, good to go. Straighten this back up. And big bolts on the bottom, they are not factory spec, kind of like everything else is. They are max 80 pounds, so we are going to do about 75 on it. Okay. Shock 35. I'm going to put it on a normal ratchet so we can get a little bit better feel and make sure that this thing is lining up. Alright, so we got our shock nuts. We're going to line up the Allen. And then we're going to stick this in the back. It does not have enough room for a socket. So we're just going to line it up with our finger and make sure that it threads on the first 2 or 3 threads. Make sure it is nicely centered on there. Alright, there it goes. Alright, I use like a old Klein screwdriver I don't use anymore. I use the one that I do use to get it started, but you don't want to break your screwdrivers you actually use. So we got that wedged in on one of the flat sides, and then we are going to torque it to 35. And if you lose grip, don't worry about it. Just find another flat spot, wedge it in there really good, and then start torquing it again. Same thing, let's get it started with the regular ratchet. find a flat spot. Jam that guy in there. $35. Alright, so other than our brake calipers, our whole front end is pretty on there. And the only thing we are missing is tightening our tie rods down. Once you get on the ground, they don't have to be tight right now. There's no point in that. But yeah, we're gonna put our brake calipers back on, and we're gonna get to running some brake lines. He did give me 4 clamps. I only have 1 clamp on each side on mine, but because he gave us 2 each, we're gonna see if we can make it look clean with 2, and maybe it'll provide a little bit more protection than 1 would. Brake calipers torque to 20, rear is 24. We're gonna see about putting the rear on there without fully torquing the axle down. If there's enough room, we'll pop it on there. If not, then we'll just leave it on the foot peg and keep on going. That's weird again, and I'm just gonna grab one of the extras. That looks pretty straight. Could have just had like a little piece of powder in it or something. Alright, Zerk fittings are in. Brake calipers are on. Trying to plumb some brand new brake lines. So this is what I usually go with, is the Streamline kit. I cannot remember if I am a dealer for them or not. But yeah, no problems. I always use the T-block. I prefer that one. Sometimes they have like the dedicated line to both, and so the routing to me just kind of looks uglier. He decided to get the Streamline brake line holders. I haven't used these before. Maybe they're even sweeter than what I have. So we'll see if we can fit both of them on both sides, or if we're just gonna go with one set. A bushing, no lube on these bushings. Then we have our bottom piece that gets the collar. Slide that guy up in there. Top piece gets the longer bolts. Slide that down. And then we have our nice machine cap for the bottom, and a brand new lock washer. Cannot beat that. Hauser logo goes in the front. We're just going to rest them on there for now while we get all the bolts lined up. eyes up. Get the logo centered. And we'll worry about exact placement once we're able to sit on the bike with everything together. Just gotta get it eyeballed on there for now. And once the rider sits on it, then we'll be able to fine tune exactly where we want the bars. We got our throttle. We're gonna go with Uramosi. Robert was nice enough to send over all black factory edition Uramosi, all the supporting parts. We're gonna get a little bit of chain lube out for the dual needle bearings that are in the factory version. And then we're gonna get a little bit of blue Loctite for some of the bolts that need to be secured on there. So during the test ride, it showed that there was sand or something in the clutch cable. So we went ahead and hooked up our Motion Pro clutch lube tool, got all that junk flushed out the end of it. We got a rag right here just while a little bit of the excess bleeds off. Lubed our throttle cable, even though it seemed to be good. Go ahead and lube it anyway. So yeah, we're gonna get throttle, and then we can get our brake master cylinder on the front, and then after that we can work on getting the brake line routing to where it needs to go, and then we can work on our clamps. I think I mentioned that like an hour ago, but it was not time for those just yet. So let's get all of our Uramosi parts out and start bolting it together. Is right now, because that is set with the other screws. Run that guy down. And you're good to tighten this one down. It's not going to adjust anything past this point. Alright, so I'm just going to loosely put these on, because once the rider gets here, we will determine where it needs to be set and locked down. So I'm just going to run 2 of these screws in. Roughly where I would probably put it myself. Alright, and that is based on the throttle being, the throttle cable being tight. So let's see what's going on with this, because this is a ton of play for a brand new bike. So sure enough, if we look down here, right there on the throttle body, you'll see that they never even attempted to loosen that or adjust it. So that's what we're gonna do, is take the slack out of that adjuster, because you won't be getting to that one on the trail. That one is a assembly, or your bike is a part adjuster. So looks like 8. And we'll just watch the throttle while we do it. Make sure this adjuster is ran pretty far in. We don't want this to get weak, like all the way out, but we do want to use as much of the room as we can. See right there where it starts to wobble? So we're going to run it back in. So right there, it's completely off. We're gonna run it in about 3 or 4 threads. So that way there is very minimal wobble, about right there. And then we're gonna move our lock nut up. And then we're gonna cinch it back down. And not crazy tight on these, because they will strip out, just like 3 foot-pounds, 4 foot-pounds, nothing crazy. Put our dust cap back on. About right there. So with the Uramosi, it does change the travel a little bit on the arm to make it easy pull. So the cables don't last as long because there's not as much slack. But honestly, if your cable's worn that much, you probably need to replace it anyway. So we have our factory, about 1/8 of play. We probably still have about 3 or 4 threads in here for our ride day adjustments. Run it in just a little bit. About right there. Tighten that guy down. Come out the front. Alright, so for right now, that looks pretty level. We will tighten that down. Pretty close. The Raptor's a little bit different on how this mounts. On the YFZ, it's super close. But the Raptor, the block and the lines actually go backwards, so they don't actually wrap around the damper. On the YFZ, they do wrap around, so you gotta be really careful. So we're gonna leave the damper off for now, because we still have to tighten these lines up underneath here once we get them positioned just right. Alright, so we got it bled out with our pump. If you've never seen that done, I need to get a new plastic one. This one has been with me for a long time, like since 2014. The gauge doesn't work anymore, but we're not worried about the pressure that the gauge says. We are just worried about getting fluid to here the fastest way possible. So once you get the pump done, then you should have a little bit of pressure on your lever, but it's not perfect, and that's where one of these comes in. It's got a one-way valve in it, as well as your hose that you're looking for bubbles. So we're gonna pump it up 2 or 3 times, nothing crazy. And even though these brake lines are the same length, like it is what it is, because they're hooked to a block, we are gonna treat it like a car and go back and forth and start with the furthest point away from the reservoir. So hold pressure, crack our bleeder, there's a little bit of air. Do it again, a little bit of air. Getting better, more air. Reservoir's still good. A little bit of air. That one looked good. Let's do it one more time. Give it about 5 pumps. No air at all. So we're gonna tighten that side a good bit. Get this fluid out of here. Clean out what fluid was in there. Wipe this off a little bit. Because this is meant to be a vacuum. It's not meant to be a hydraulic pump. Okay, that's pretty dry. We'll pop our little plastic piece in there. And you want to close this up as soon as you can, because brake fluid absorbs water whenever it's exposed to air. So we want to eliminate as much water as we possibly can in the brake system, because water boils faster than air does, or than brake fluid does. Way faster than brake fluid does. So not only will it be spongy, but you will lose brake feel at some point. So we're gonna go the extra step on this one. Just seeing how clear the front reservoir is now, I cannot leave the back alone. So we're not gonna charge him for this, but we are gonna get rid of that factory brake fluid, since we have a brand new performance brake fluid that's open. And remember, that stuff does not have a shelf life really. Once you open it, it immediately starts to absorb water. If you've had it for, I don't know, 6 months, 3 months, definitely a year, then you might as well just throw it away, because it for sure has water in it. Yeah, it is coming out like Dr. Pepper for a brand new bike. Alright, I can hear it start to suck a little bit of air, so we're going to get our Motul fluid. And this rear brake will almost gravity bleed. It's pretty easy, so it won't take us too long. Put that in there. Get some fluid going. So it's already got the air out of it. Right now I'm just setting the level. There we go. Good pressure. Adjust our level a little bit. Like that. Take our little suction thing, and this one looks like it has fluid on it as well. I'm not sure why. The level looked good whenever I checked it. So we're gonna pop this guy out of here and just dry all the liquid that's up in there. Alright, feel much better about that. That's how your brake fluid should look. This is where the small details come in. So I know we deleted the e-brake, but we're gonna also go back and take all the brackets off that were going to the e-brake. So we got the one off the starter. This guy torques to about 7 to 9 foot-pounds. That one's back in there, but then we got one that goes into the engine. So this one also holds our clutch cable, but we're just gonna mark it and then cut it. So that way there's not just a random loop hanging in the middle of space behind our muffler. It might not even clear the RP, honestly. And this bracket was oddly kind of loose. It's probably 7 foot-pounds, but it felt lighter than that, and it has no Loctite on it at all. So just a little bit of blue Loctite, and then we'll just run it back in there, minus the e-brake part that we grinded off. Our suspension on, we got our damper back on, we have our AIS deleted, and all the rear suspension's done except for the one tool we're waiting on for that giant axle nut on the tusk. And then right now we're going to start with our stage 3 hot cam. So let's get all of our covers off, and I'm going to turn my music back on so I can focus anytime I do engine work. Y'all are welcome to listen to my ratchet while I take the covers off, but after that, looks like we got MGK. Not sure what album this is. It's the it's Hotel Diablo is the album. So we got Pacific Rim on today, just for some background noise. So yeah, I'm gonna turn the music up and we're gonna get this cam installed. Alright, from now until the end of the video, it looks like the mic might have been plugged in, so the mic is whistling a little bit. But in this clip, we're just popping off the cover. We're gonna put the motor top dead center, and then go ahead and pop out our factory cam, just using the Allen wrench to get behind the cam a little bit. It does have like a safety shield you have to pull off and make sure you don't drop it in the bottom end. So that's what I'm doing right now, is just playing with the cam, working its way out of there. You got to get the sprocket off first. And with stage 3 cam, your valve clearance dramatically changes. So make sure that if anybody else works on the bike, that they have that piece of paper to be able to accurately adjust the valves, because it will cause an uh-oh if you use the factory specs. Alright, we got our Power Commander 6 hooked up to the computer. Yours probably won't look like this, I don't think. Power Commander 6 software, which is Power Core, I think it's called now, C3 tuning. You have to have special permissions now. It's not like the old Power Commander 3 and 5. But we have our custom map, and we have already converted it to Power Commander 6 format. And then we just hit send. Are you sure you want to send? Map already exists in this position. Do you want to replace the existing map? Yes. That's it. So map is loaded for FCI, stage 3 cam, and full exhaust. Alright, tires are on the ground. Just wanted to show you something. The alignment is way off. We got a metric ton of measurements and adjustments to do to make sure the suspension is set up right. The rear, I think I already loosened the low speed, but you can see how loose the rear is compared to the front. Whew, front is pretty tight. So it's not just about installing all the parts and everything on your wish list. It's also about knowing how to adjust it. So this one is going to be XC, so we're going to go ahead and loosen our low speeds all the way. And then we're going to check our rebound, because these are most likely used YFE shocks. So we have no idea what the rebound is. That sounded like about 11. So this end, I'm pretty sure about 11. This side was 17. So we're just going to run them back in about 3. And let's see how much of a difference that makes. Alright, front end is definitely starting to move now. So we can go ahead and put the rebound to 0. We need to check a high speed as well. Alright, so we got the shocks to a decent baseline. Low speed is run all the way out. High speed is 1.5 turns in from the fully loosened position. Rebound, we're going to run those back in like 1 or 2 just to start with. The rear is actually closer to 10 or 11. Low speed is still all the way out, and then high speed we'll let the owner decide. We're not really sure where he rides, but that's part of it is, you know, now that the suspension is tuned for your body weight, now you get to play with it and get it exactly how you want it. And one setup could be completely different. If you ride soft sand, maybe he wants to test it for about 30 minutes or so, write down some numbers, and then whenever he comes to Georgia, hard packed clay, then he might want to loosen it up a little bit, let it be a little bit more forgiving. But same thing with the damper. All that's part of the fun is learning exactly where you want it. So that way it controls any recoil to the bars, as well as how sharp it can corner, and how tight it holds a corner. Alright, so before we even put it on there, we're going to go ahead and do our first wipe down. Make sure we get all the places we can. I'm going to hold somewhere that I know for sure that I can get to after the muffler is installed. So, not too bad, just a little bit of oil on it. muffler. This, for the Raptor, makes like a swoop down. You can kind of see the spring spots on the back where this is going to line up with. That's a good starting point. We'll grab one of our bolts. So we want to make sure that both of the bolts on our canister line up, especially before we start pulling and twisting on anything else. So it looks like the front needs to come up a little bit, so we're going to take our mid pipe and just turn it just a little bit, and that's it. Now it lines up. Alright, so now we're just going to check clearance for our frame, our subframe. Make sure that our mid pipe is all the way together. See how the front is lining up. And now we're going to start at the header and tighten that first. And this is evenly. Alright, so our head pipe is evenly torqued down. Rotating back and forth several times on it, making sure that it has even pressure. pipe 1 on the mid pipe, and then 2 for the canister. Alright, so muffler is fully installed. All of our springs are in place. I know I made that look easy. If you ever used a spring puller before, be careful, don't let it hit you in the face. And now I know you want to hear it, I want to hear it too. But we're going to wipe it down one more time. And then once we wipe it down, we're not going to touch it anymore. So our friends aren't going to touch it. If our friends come up and say, oh my God, look how clean, you kick them in the face. Because all the oil from your hand are going to burn into the pipe, and then it's going to mess up the color. I like to keep it as shiny and purple and green and red as I possibly can for the longest that I can. So the only thing I use to clean my exhaust with, or the head pipes with, is rubbing alcohol. So whenever I use any kind of acid on the cases, sometimes I'll wrap the exhaust in just a wet cloth. That'll usually protect it pretty good. If I'm really, like it's like one of my show bikes, then I'll completely remove the exhaust, buy a new gasket, and then reinstall the exhaust after I'm done cleaning my cases off, because I do like to ride my stuff. Alright then. Alright, so we got the brake and oil changed out, put some good Angela in there, and then went ahead and wiped down the pipe again, make sure we got no oil, no hand residue on the pipe because it will burn into it. We're trying to keep that color nice and purple and green. But yeah, this is the final product, so 2025 special edition, green. I know I see a bunch of them floating out there. This is kind of like the ultimate that you could have, this big three plus suspension, plus stage 3 cams. That way it over revs really nice. You pick up about 16, 17 horsepower over not having the camshaft, and at this point it revs like a YFZ 450. So yeah, if you have any questions or anything, just drop a comment, hit us up on Instagram, We got another build coming up after this one. It's going to be Stormtrooper, so 2020 Raptor 700, so the white and black version. So if you made it to the end of the video, appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one.